Helloa and greetings from the Idaho Renaissance Fair, Inc. This is Tyson. I am the Human Resources Vice President, and today's video we are going to do a little bit of the German accent. I'm not great at the German accent, but I am a huge fan of it. I have a lot of family history with it. My great grandpa was Swiss, and a lot of my family has gone back to Germany and so on and so forth. So there are certain words and things that I've learned, and I'm constantly practicing my German accent. And so what I'm going to be doing is just kind of sharing some of the tips and tricks that I do to help myself get into a German accent. Or Germanic. They're just like every other country. There's a couple of different accents. A lot of you are probably familiar with Professor Ludwig von Drake from Mickey Mouse, and his accent is more of a high mountain German. So it sounds different than what you'll hear from like Hogan's Heroes or what you'll hear from a lot of your old cartoon German professors. One of my favorite ones is from Baby Huey. If you're familiar with that cartoon series, there's an episode where Baby Huey is trying to graduate from school, and so they hire a private tutor, and of course, he is a German tutor, and he's very strict. A lot of times, people will take the German accent as like an angry or, upset kind of a thing. It's not that. It's how they pronounce everything, and it's kind of how modern film has portrayed them. The villains are always the Germans, stuff like that. So you can find a lot of different sources to pull from. The things you have to remember with a German accent is that they don't have a th. When we say the has a very strong th sound to it, so your tongue gets pushed forward. In German, they don't have that, and they don't do a whole lot of s either. The s noise is not something that you commonly find in their culture, because it's just not how they form their vowels, and it's not how they form their words. So as you're doing your accent, you're going to be leaving out a lot of the th and the s's. A good example, I learned a couple of songs while I was doing my practicing, and one of my favorites is about this grandma, and this grandma does crazy things. And one of the verses, just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, it goes, Mein Oma fährt ein Hühnerstall Motorrad, Motorrad, Motorrad. Mein Oma fährt ein Hühnerstall Motorrad. Mein Oma ist eine ganz patente Frau. No th sounds in that entire song. No s sounds in that entire song. And it's all about, and the entire verse and everything is that way. If you listen to Rammstein, you won't hear any of those either. It's just not in their language. So when I'm getting ready to come into a German accent, a lot of times I'll think about some of the famous German accents that I really enjoyed growing up with, such as Hogan. From Hogan's Heroes, you have Commander Klink. He has this very interesting accent where he's very dynamic, and of course he sounds like he's a Dummkopf. How dare you? And he's mixing a lot of English in with that, but a little bit of that kind of helps me get into it. You also have, of course, Schultz. Schultz is always a big popular guide tool. Permission to fall flat on my face, sir. And that was way more French than I wanted it to be. But I think about those kind of characters, and I think about if you get a chance to listen to anything that, what's his name? Einstein. So I think about these kind of people. I listen to these kind of people. And when we start listening to these people, we go ahead and we make the accent as deep as we want it to be. And a lot of the times when I'm doing this, I'm putting the tongue on the roof of my mouth. And while it's there, I am keeping in mind there are no th's. There are no sounds. It's not very enhanced, not very, what's the word, dynamic whenever I'm doing it. And I do a lot of it in a higher pitch. I'm not saying all Germans are going to be doing their accents in a nice higher pitch into that higher range, but when I see an accent like this, because you can see the accent, when I hear the accent like this, I am always constantly thinking about having that up here. I'm sure I could do it in a more manly fashion, but it does not really fit with how I am going about it. So it really depends on what you're going for in your character. I'm sure if you're trying to be more serious, that's fine, but my character, Gottlieb Gries, he is a very flamboyant merchant, so he's always kind of up here. He's very happy and he loves to be here. And is not the right way to say that. Und. In the actual German, und means and. So, depending on how you want to be accurate with it, you have your regular hellos, your guten Morgen, or guten Tag, or jawohl. You got all these little things that you can do that are very stereotypical Hollywood German. And then you actually talk to native Germans, and they're not like that. They're just normal people. So it really depends on who you're listening to, what you kind of want to get on, but kind of hear that and visualize it, and remember that to be authentic sounding, at least to an American ear, you just have to live out the THs and the S's and throw in a couple of the German words like und. Und is a fantastic one. Everyone knows what that sounds like. So they all come together and they're like, oh, here's a German. And then you put that in front of a German native speaker and he goes, that's not even close. That's not what I sound like. I sound nothing like that. My way of doing it is very, very Hollywood. The actual authentic German native speakers, depending on where they're at in their learning, are much more subtle, or if they're brand new, it's kind of like a southern accent. When I was living in North Carolina, the little kids would have what we call the deep country accent. And for that, you would have, y'all know how deep the accent can get. It goes real down there, and you cut left and you go right and you do all these things. As they mature, depending on who they're around, that accent will start to go away, and it is more like my normal accent that I do. You can tell I still have a little bit of the southern going on with it, but it's more of a western. The German is the exact same way. If I was a real educated native German speaker, you would not necessarily be able to tell very easily that I am doing this German accent. It's very subtle, and it makes it so that if I really try hard, you can barely tell that I'm doing it. I'm still missing the THs, because you think about it. If you practice a way of speaking your entire life, unless you're conscientiously thinking about it, you're going to slip back into your familiar muscle structure. So even the most educated of the Germans and the most practiced with their English accent, unless they are really conscientiously thinking about it, they're going to do little things with their tongue, like get rid of the THs, because it's just not something that they practiced very much. But if you want to be a big flamboyant and you really want to get in there, it all goes right out the window, and you have this most amazing time. You get all of the slipping in, you do all of the things that the people who are from the area and want to learn the accent, they love. They're like, oh my gosh, you are so amazing. And I'm like, yes, I know this. This is how we do it. I love me. And that's how I approach the German accent. Listen to a lot of native German speakers. I know it's not like super kosher, but World War II documentaries where you hear a lot of interviews with ex German soldiers from World War II and stuff like that. The ones that have learned English and are trying to do that with their life. You have some amazing examples of natural German people trying to learn the English words and trying to speak in an English fashion. Watch the old cartoons. A lot of the old cartoons, they had just these really vibrant German professors and teachers that would do just amazing things, and they're a great source to pull from. There's a lot of modern people that you can listen to. Rammstein, when you're singing, of course, you open up your factories and you have all of these open. And the German people, when they sing too, will do the exact same thing. It's why you can't hear an English accent when they're singing very, very often. The Germans will do the same because they're doing the exact same thing to really project the voice and get it out there and be what they are to make sure you understand and hear everything that they're doing. It's the same. It's controlling everything up here so that you can get the sound and the tone that you want. So that's my recommendations for it. I hope you found it helpful. I know, again, it's not the greatest of accents, but as I'm learning, I hope you learn, and I hope this gives you the steps needed to go ahead and perfect your own German accent for your Renaissance Fair experience. This has been the Idaho Renaissance Fair Inc. and our YouTube page. We hope your history is as fun as our history, and we look forward to catching you next time. Goodbye.